are back right here on the Sports Talk Nation right here on YouTube. Folks, I'm glad to be back here with you to talk some football here today. I know it's been a couple of weeks since we've done a Football Friday, but here we go. We got a lot to digest, especially this week with so much going on. You have the Ezekiel Elliot situation. You have the Jerry Jones against Roger Goodell situation. You have Giant fans calling for the head of Ben McAdoo. All kinds of craziness going on in the NFL. So we'll get to the picks in a minute. But first, let me just tackle a couple of these issues that are going on in the NFL. Now, first of all, Jerry Jones is threatening to file a lawsuit against the National Football League for the negotiations of Roger Goodell's contract. And a lot of this stipulates from a number of things. One, the NFL is a league that is under siege, especially in light of the turmoil that has surrounded the NFL with regard to the national anthem protest. The negative view that a lot of fans have of the NFL has swept across the country. Fans have been tuning out games. The ratings for games have been going down. A lot of that is blamed on the oversaturation of the league, but I think a lot of that is connected to what's going on here with the NFL anthem protest. You see a lot of fans burning jerseys. Those videos are all over YouTube as we speak. You have fans who have stopped buying jerseys and have stopped buying tickets to games. So attendance is down. Viewership is down. A lot of things are down in the NFL. And even Jerry Jones pointed it out as he says here, the league is being portrayed in a state of quote-unquote upheaval under an avalanche of issues that have beleaguered the NFL unlike any other time in recent memory. That is a direct quote from Jerry Jones via an article from ESPN. So considering that and all the issues that are surrounding the league, Jones is also very concerned about the contract negotiations for Goodell. He feels there's a lot of ambiguity, and he would like to see a situation where the NFL owners, all 32 of them, review that contract with a microscope, basically, and go over every detail before it is ever approved. Now, from what I heard on ESPN and from all the insiders that are out there for the NFL, sounds like the contract is going to go through regardless. But this is a real point of contention for Jerry Jones. He has a lot of concerns. One of the articles I read said that the language about bonuses in Goodell's contract is an issue for Jerry Jones. He feels that it could be taken as incentives, and that he feels that would be a big concern for not just himself, but several other owners in the NFL. So there is that. Then there's also the Ezekiel Elliott situation. Now, I know Jones has denied any idea that the Ezekiel Elliott suspension has spearheaded his opposition for the contract extension for Roger Goodell. I don't believe that for a minute. I guarantee that is definitely part of the thinking here for Jerry Jones. He is upset with the way the NFL's handled Ezekiel Elliott's suspension. 1 week, Elliott's suspension is on, the next it's off, then it's on, then it's off, then it's on, and it's off, all regarding this domestic abuse allegation. And look, we live in an NFL under Roger Goodell where people and players are pretty much guilty until proven otherwise. Just ask Tom Brady with regards to Deflategate. He was guilty until proven otherwise. And even with that, he still got a 4-game suspension. Now you have Elliott, who's about to be suspended and has been suspended for 6 games by the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals after the injunction was rejected. So he is going to face a suspension. But Jones says that his concerns with Goodell's contract has nothing to do with Ezekiel Elliott. I don't buy that for a minute, as I just said before. I think it has a lot to do with that, and also the fact that he's watching his team lose money. He's watching less fans come to the building. He's watching a situation where people are watching the games less, and revenue is going down. And when revenue is going down, a person like a Jerry Jones, he claims there are other owners out there that are concerned as well, are going to go out there and put their foot down and say, I don't think we should give Roger Goodell a contract extension. Now, will the contract happen? From what I've been reading, yes, it's going to happen. That Goodell is going to get the contract extension. I've heard it could go until 2024, so we'll see if that goes through. And Plush have a committee that is leading this, the compensation committee, led by Arthur Blank, who is the owner of the Atlanta Falcons, whose Falcons, by the way, play the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. We'll talk about that game in just a second. To me, it looks like Goodell is going to be safe. Should he be safe? No. Honestly, I think that the NFL would be better off trying to find somebody else to lead the league for all the reasons that I've just listed before, all the problems that have gone on in the NFL, the image, the negative image that a lot of people have of the National Football League at this moment in time. Now for the actual game itself. We start things down in Atlanta as the Dallas Cowboys visit the Falcons this weekend. And of course, the big headliner is Ezekiel Elliott's suspension. The suspension is back on after the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against the injunction. And as a result, Elliott is going to be suspended this week and could be suspended for the next 6 weeks, which is going to be huge because if you take a look at that Dallas Cowboys schedule over the next 6 weeks, they got some tough games. I mean, they got the Atlanta game this week. They get Philadelphia next week in what could be the game of the year. I mean, you talk about a Philadelphia team that has been red hot, 8-1 on the season, coming into Dallas, and Ezekiel Elliott may not be there for that game next week. They get the Chargers after that, the Redskins, at the Giants, and then the Raiders. So the next time Elliott could play would be Christmas Eve when the Cowboys take on the Seahawks. So a lot of tough games between now and then. And Dallas will be going with running back by committee. You're going to see Darren McFadden. You're going to see Alfred Morris. You're even going to see a little bit of Rod Smith. Now, I'll say this. Darren McFadden and Alfred Morris, both of those guys have been in the league for a while. Both of those guys have shown what they can do. You take a look what Alfred Morris has done. He hasn't run the ball a whole heck of a lot. He's only run it 14 times this season for 116 yards. But this is a guy who's averaged 4.4 yards per carry in his career, was a 1,000-yard rusher with the Redskins. McFadden has had a couple of good years in his career with the Raiders. Ran for a little close to 1,200 yards a few years ago in Oakland. Ran for over 1,000 yards in Dallas 2 years ago. So those two guys I would expect are going to get a bulk of the carries. And the Cowboys also like Rod Smith a lot. So while it is going to hurt that the Cowboys are not going to have Ezekiel Elliott there, they are going to do what they can to try to make up ground without him there. And look, this is a team that still has a lot of weapons. Guys like Des Bryant, Dak Prescott, we all know the names there offensively. The key that's going to be interesting here is what kind of Falcon team are the Cowboys going to see this weekend? Are they going to see the Falcon team that we saw very early in the season that beat up the Green Bay Packers in Week 2 when they put up 34 points? Or are we going to see the Falcon team that we have seen here for the last 6 weeks? As this team has lost 4 of the last 5 games, has not played good football, lost last week to Carolina on the road. Probably could have lost to the Jets the week before that, were it not for a Jet implosion. I mean, we could be looking at a Falcon team that right now could be easily 3-5 right now in the middle of a 5-game losing streak. But I just got a feeling that at home, a late afternoon game, national television, Fox game of the week, that you're going to see a Falcon team that is finally going to click just a little bit. You got some distractions there with the Cowboys after what's going on here with Elliott. And while the Cowboys are playing well, I just think this is a now or never situation here for the Falcons. They are at home, and they have got to find a way to win this game. They are a team that has too much talent to be this bad and to play this bad for this long. So I expect Julio Jones to have a pretty solid game in receiving. I expect Matt Ryan to do a nice job. He's got to cut down the turnovers, and they also got to do a good job in keeping me upright. I mean, he has been hit a lot in the last couple of weeks. No, he only had the last 14 sacks in the season, but he has been hit a lot. And they've got to find a way to get Devontae Freeman going in the running game at 4.5 yards per carry. He's got to have a big day here today and be the standout running back of all the running backs in this game between the Cowboys and the Falcons. So while the Cowboys, I think, could go on a roll here, especially if they win this game this weekend without Ezekiel Elliott there in the backfield, I just feel that this is a must-win, gotta have it or else kind of game for the Atlanta Falcons. They haven't been home in a long time. The last time they were home was that meltdown they had against the Miami Dolphins. That was, in the middle of October? It's been a while now since the Falcons have been home, and I expect them to play better and play well and find a way in what will be a shootout kind of game, possibly against the Cowboys to get the win. But I will take the Falcons 31-21 over the Dallas Cowboys. Game number 2, the Los Angeles Chargers visit Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars, and this could be a really big game in the AFC, specifically around the wild card. Now, the Jaguars come in playing really good football. They've won 2 in a row. Blake Bortles has really done a solid job. I know he's not a great quarterback. He's not a guy that you want to put the game when the game's on the line. You really don't want him to be your guy, but all things considering, he hasn't done a terrible job this year. He has played a little bit better, certainly over the last couple of weeks, Played real well against Cincinnati, threw for 259 and a touchdown, threw for 330 against Indianapolis the week before that. So he's done a pretty good job here this season for the Jacksonville Jaguars, all things considering. Now, the question with him is, what are you going to get from him week to week? You never know. Best thing for the Jaguars is the fact that offensively they have a guy like Leonard Fournette, who has just been phenomenal this year. 596 yards rushing. He has 6 touchdowns. Certainly in running for the Rookie of the Year candidacy. Now, he was out last week. Did not play in the game last week. But according to the sources that I've read here, that he could play and is expected to play this week, which is good news for Jacksonville because the Chargers give up 4.7 yards per carry. And, of course, you have a guy here in Fournette who's just been, as I said, phenomenal, averaging about 4.8 yards per carry so far this year. So that plays into their favor. They're going to face or Los Angeles, I should say. I'm still used to saying San Diego. I apologize. But the Jaguars will face a Los Angeles Chargers football team that, for the most part, has been a strange team to figure out. They lose the first 4 games of the season. They could have easily pulled out a couple of those games, but still started 0-4. Then they won 3 in a row, and then, as would be expected, they lose a game to the Patriots. Now, all their losses, with the exception of one loss to Kansas City, have been fairly close. They lost by 8 to New England, lost by 2 to Philadelphia, lost by 2 to Miami, and lost by 3 to Denver. So they have been in these games all the time. And Phillip Rivers has owned the Jacksonville Jaguars in his career. He is 6-1 against the Jaguars in his career, has 19 touchdowns, 4 picks against Jacksonville. But this is a much different Jacksonville team than the one that he is used to seeing in years past. This is a Jaguars team that gets after the quarterback with reckless abandon. Right now they lead the league in sacks with 35 sacks. They're one of the top defenses in the league in tackles after a loss. They force more turnovers than anybody else. They have already forced 10 interceptions this year, with Tayshaun Gibson leading the way with 3. And also, talk about the sacks. Calais Campbell, oh my goodness, Calais Campbell. 11 sacks this year for Calais Campbell already this year. And, they have just been phenomenal at getting pressure, and I expect them to get some pressure against Phillip Rivers in this football game. And I could see a very tight, competitive game between these two teams because, well, that's what these two teams have been playing really all season. So, could I see the Chargers going on the road and pulling out the upset? I certainly could, especially if they're in a situation where they have a lead late and they force Blake Bortles to try to win the game with his arm. I could certainly see the Chargers pulling this one out. But I think because of this defense for Jacksonville, because of the running game that they feature, I could certainly see Jacksonville finding a way to just do enough late and pull out late and win this football game. So it'll be a fun game, a good game to watch. 24-20, I'll take the Jaguars over the Chargers. Game number 3, one of the more intriguing matchups of the weekend slate, and that is the New Orleans Saints heading up to Buffalo to take on the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Saints have been playing all world, especially defensively, and they may be in the middle of the pack statistically, but they are tied for 9th in points allowed. They are 15th in the league in rush yards allowed, so they have been playing good football defensively compared to what we have seen out of this New Orleans team over the years. This is a New Orleans team that's usually near the bottom in the NFL in total defense. They're even plus in the turnover ratio, +3. So the defense has been superb. Of course, the offense has done just enough. When you have Drew Brees as your quarterback, you're going to put up a lot of points and yards. And that's what the Saints have been done this year. They've been very, very good at home. They put up 52 on the Lions a few weeks ago. Put up 30 last week against the bad Buccaneers team. Now, the thing that bothers me about the Saints is I really don't know if I really want to buy too much into them. I know they're 6-2. I know they played great football since that 0-2 start. But, I look who they've beaten. They've beaten a Panther team that's been their best win so far this year in Week 3. They beat a Dolphin team that's terrible. They beat a Packer team that's without Aaron Rodgers. They beat the Bears, enough said there, and they beat the Bucs, enough said there. So, who are the New Orleans Saints really? And now they're going to put them on the road. It's going to be a cold game up in Buffalo. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see how they do, especially defensively, against the Bill team that has been very good at home. Buffalo is 4-0 at home so far this year. And you have a guy like LaShawn McCoy, Tyrod Taylor. These guys use their legs a lot, and they create a lot of plays in open space. And Taylor hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He's only turned it over twice. He's thrown 10 touchdowns. He's run for 210 yards on 50 quarterback rushes this year. And McCoy has turned back the clock a little bit. He's done a nice job as well with 3 touchdowns and 546 yards rushing. So I could see a scenario where the Saints, as good as they've played this year, have a tough time against this Buffalo Bills offense. And this is a Bills defense on the flip side that, while they haven't gotten a lot of sacks this year, they've done okay. They've done pretty well. They have forced 11 interceptions this year. So for Drew Brees, he's got to find a way to protect the football against this Buffalo defense, especially a secondary that is very opportunistic. Remember, this is the same Buffalo Bill team that earlier this year went into Atlanta when everyone thought Atlanta was still a good football team and beat Atlanta on the road. So if you don't think they can beat a good quarterback, look what they did against Atlanta. Look what they did against Oakland and Derek Carr. So they have beaten good quarterbacks already this year, and they're going to get a chance here against New Orleans. I just get a feeling, like I said before, New Orleans out of the dome, on the road, cold environment, early game in Buffalo. Bills are going to be running all over the field in that football game on the fast, cold track up there. I could see Buffalo coming away with a victory and somewhat stunning the Saints a little bit and giving them a bit of a wake-up call as they begin the second half of their season. So I'll take the Bills in an upset. Buffalo 23, New Orleans 16. Now, before I get to my last trio of games that I'm going to analyze here for you, I got a couple of bonus picks. I like the Tennessee Titans at home this week against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals have not been playing good football for a while. They got a lot of problems there all across that team. Marvin Lewis right now is on the hot seat. And they go into Tennessee against a Titan team that at times has a tendency to play down to the competition. We saw that what they did against Cleveland a few weeks ago, where they left the Cleveland Browns in the football game all day, and they still found a way to the Titans to pull out the win 12-9. They are at home. They play a lot of tight, close, low-scoring games, and this would be another feather in the cap here for the Titans. They got one last week against the Ravens. They have a chance to get another one here against the Bengals and really start to move themselves up in the AFC South. So I like the Titans to beat the Bengals this week, 22-19. The other bonus pick, I like the Redskins. I'm going to roll with them after what they did last week in Seattle, a game that no one thought on the planet that they would win. And they went up there, had the lead for almost the entire game, led in fact 10-2, basically for the entire game, and then the Seahawks came all the way back, took the lead, and then the Redskins had that one big pass down the sideline, set up the game-winning touchdown, and stunned the Seahawks 17-14. Huge win for Washington as they got to 500 at 4-4. And I just like Kirk Cousins at home in this situation with a team riding some momentum against a Viking team that has been okay. They're not great. I don't love the Vikings. I know that, again, they're a 6-2 team. How could I not love a team that's 6-2? Their quarterback's Casey Keenum. I mean, that's not a situation that can be sustained, prolonged success for the Vikings. I have worries about them long term, and I still think that the Detroit Lions, now that Aaron Rodgers is out for Green Bay, the Detroit Lions are the best team in the North, and I think eventually that's going to come to fruition. And I think this will be a tough loss for the Vikings, but I'm going to take the Skins to go out there and beat the Minnesota Vikings at home. Close game, 23-20. I'll take the Redskins over the Minnesota Vikings. All right, let's move right along. Let's go over to our next big game, and that is the New England Patriots on the road in Denver to take on the Denver Broncos. This place has been a house of horrors for Tom Brady. He is 3-7 all-time in games that are played in Denver, including 3 losses in the playoffs. He had that loss in the playoffs many, many years ago. I think it was 2005. That was when Jake Plummer was the quarterback for the Denver Broncos. He had that loss, and then most recently had a couple of losses in the AFC Championship game to the Denver Broncos. So he's had those losses, and he had a loss to a quarterback that he will face this weekend in Brock Osweiler 2 years ago. It was a snowy Sunday night, late in the season, and the Patriots lost that game 30-24. They lost Rob Gronkowski that week, and that was another bad day for Tom Brady and the Patriots out there in Denver. That Denver team was certainly a lot better than the Denver team they see here. This year's Denver team is bad. They have lost 4 in a row. They got killed by the Philadelphia Eagles last week, 51-23. And they are a team that really has no direction. They're really rudderless right now. They benched Trevor Siemian. They're going with Brock Osweiler now. Osweiler was mediocre in his start against the Eagles, obviously, especially in the game where he killed 51-23. Mediocre is probably the best way to put it. but he turned it over a couple of times. And here's a guy in Osweiler who comes back to Denver after taking money and running from Houston last year, fell flat in his face in Houston, fell flat in his face in Cleveland this summer in training camp, and is trying to revitalize his career again with the team that he started with in the Denver Broncos. I think this will be a tough situation here for him. I don't think he's going to have the same success against the Patriots that he did 2 years ago. Now, yes, I know this Patriot defense isn't great. It isn't the best Patriot defense we have seen. They certainly have had their issues, as we saw early in the season. But they've been playing better. We saw them play very good football against the Falcons a couple weeks ago, and they played well against the Chargers last week. And, well, lo and behold, the Patriots have now won 4 in a row and are right now in first place in the AFC East. What a shock. Not at all. So you got a Patriot team coming in here looking to extend their winning streak to 5 and trying to exercise some demons on the road in Denver, and I fully expect them to do so. I don't like this Denver team at all. I don't think they're that good. I think they're really bad. I think they are potentially 5-11, 4-12 bad. That's how bad the Broncos are right now. They're trying to figure things out, and they have talent. They can make some plays. They have a couple of good receivers there in Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, but it isn't enough. They have a good defense, as we've seen in years past, led by Von Miller, but as we've seen so far this year, it just isn't enough. They're giving up a lot of hits on the quarterback. They've given up 28 sacks this year. The quarterbacks have turned it over. They turned it over 12 times with 12 picks. So they have done a lot of things wrong, and I think they're going to do a lot of things wrong here against the Patriot team that makes people pay. Tom Brady has had a great season so far. What would you expect? Thrown for over 2,500 yards, 16 touchdowns, 2 picks for Tom Brady. They've been efficient, not great, not spectacular, but efficient in the running game, and the passing game has been very good. Brandon Cooks has really come on here with the Patriots. Rob Gronkowski's had a good year, and Chris Hogan's done a nice job in the middle. So I expect all that to continue this week in Denver. I don't think this game will be close. I will say Patriots win 27-17, but it could be even worse than that. But I will take the Patriots in a slam dunk out there in Denver. All right, for you New York fans, it's now time to talk about some Jets and Giants football. We'll start things off with the New York Giants, who right now stand at 1-7, a lowly 1-7, and there's a lot of pressure right now on Ben McAdoo. There's been talk all week that he is on the precipice of being fired. I saw tweets out there this week, some people speculating that he could have been fired this week. That, of course, has not happened. John Mara, John Tisch are going to give him, at the very least, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not impossible. The Giants aren't exactly known for firing coaches in season. They've certainly haven't done that in a very, very long time. I believe since '78. I believe that's how long ago it's been since they fired a coach in the middle of a season. That's how things have changed here for the Giants this season. But unless the Giants go out there and lose badly to the San Francisco 49ers, who are 0-9, I think Ben McAdoo is going to be given a chance to at least finish the season, but they have got to find a way to win this game against the 49ers. There is no way the Giants can lose this game. And the players have already been rumbling about problems in the locker room, problems with the head coach. The coach has, of course, suspended a couple of players in the secondary. That's Janoris Jenkins and Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie in weeks past. So the players feel that that McAdoo has lost the locker room. He has also gone in war with quarterback Eli Manning, even going as far as to suggest that he would consider benching Eli Manning for rookie quarterback Davis Webb. Now, that is not going to happen. If that happens, the Giants are waving a white flag not just on the rest of this season, which is, of course, going nowhere, but they're waving a white flag on Eli Manning, who, while it hasn't been a great year for Eli, it really isn't all his fault. I mean, he's got an offensive line that's just putrid that he has to play behind. He has no running game to speak of. Okay, Orleans Darkwa has done okay, but, it's Orleans Darkwa. I mean, it's not like exactly Adrian Peterson in his prime that he's handing the ball off to. And with Odell Beckham Jr. out for the season, Brandon Marshall out for the season, Eli has no weapons. So it isn't all his fault. He hasn't played well, but it isn't all his fault this year. It's a culmination of a whole bunch of things that are going on with the Giants. So, to me, if the Giants do bench Eli, if they do decide to move on and bench Eli, which I think is a mistake, it would be it would probably be the end of Ben McAdoo 1. It would probably be the end of a lot of things. I really don't know where the Giants would go at that point. A lot of people are now starting to say a lot of things they said with the Jets, that the Giants should go ahead and tank the season and go out and try to draft Sam Darnold. Let's pump the brakes on that talk again. We had that talk with the Jets earlier this year. Let's pump the brakes on that talk here with the Giants. I still think, even with a new head coach next year, Eli Manning's probably going to be the quarterback of this football team, whether some of these fans like it or not. There's no doubt they're going to go with Eli Manning as the quarterback. He has the Super Bowl rings, he has the experience, and let's be honest, you give him some help on the offensive line, you give him some running backs, maybe this team can turn around next year. But that's a story for another day. But this football team needs to go out there and beat a 49er team that is just, as I said, putrid. 0-9. Now, they did make that trade for Jimmy Garoppolo, but he is not ready. And that is such a weird situation. I don't know whether Garoppolo is going to be the long-term answer. They say he's going to be. They've been using the word franchise quarterback with Garoppolo, but they bring him into a tough situation, middle of the season. He's got to learn this playbook. Hasn't played yet, so we're probably going to see maybe 4 or 5 games from Garoppolo. What does that really tell us about him long-term with this 49ers team? I don't know. I don't think even the 49ers know, for that matter. I hope for the 49ers' sake he is the long-term answer for them, but for right now, they're going with C.J. Beathard. Oh, yes, the wonderful C.J. Beathard for another week. He has 4 interceptions already this year. He's only completed just a little more than 50% of his passes. He has been terrible for the 49ers. Then again, everyone has been terrible for the 49ers this year. There's no excuse for the New York Giants to lose this football game. And this is a 49er team that, as I said, has no quarterback. Their defense isn't very good. They've given up 32 sacks with their offensive line on the quarterback. They don't turn it over much, but they certainly do not protect they certainly do not play good football. And for the most part, with the exception of a couple of games that have been close, will give up a ton of points and have gotten blown out in each of the last 3 weeks. Get 40 points to the Cowboys, 33 points to the Eagles, and 20 points to the Cardinals in each of the last 3 weeks, and have only scored 10 points in each of their last 3 games with Mr. C.J. Beathard under center. So he'll be under center this week. The Giants have to find a way to knock him around, get some pressure on him, have a big game for Jason Pierre-Paul, have some fun, son. Damian Snacks Harrison, have some fun, son. Go out there and attack the 49ers, get a win, and try to quiet down the noise just a little bit and get the Giants to their second win of the year. And if they do that, the fans will start to leave, at least this week, will leave Ben McAdoo alone. As I said, if he loses, could be heads off Ben McAdoo very quickly, as they will have the Kansas City Chiefs coming in here next week. But I will say the Giants win. I'll say the Giants will win this game. Not fun, 21-14. And now, finally, we got the New York Jets taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers down there in Raymond James Stadium. You know, Mama once said to me, never trust the New York Jets. And that's the case right now here in this game. This is the ultimate trap game if you are the Jets. They come to this game at 4-5, riding high from a huge win against the Buffalo Bills last Thursday night. They've had some extra time to rest and get ready for this game. But in the ensuing days since that game, all I've heard is how this Jet team is now maybe arrived. I've heard people saying that Josh McCown now deserves a contract extension. I have heard things that have been just insane for a team that had no expectations for this year. I've even heard the word playoffs associated with the Jets. Let's take it easy. This is a team that has a lot of young players. They have some talent. They have some good talent. But a lot of young players. They're a young team. They're still trying to figure out how to win games. It wasn't that long ago this team was blowing 3 straight games that they probably should have won. So before we go nuts with the Jets, let's take it easy with this team. And they go into a situation where they're going to take on a Tampa Bay team that, yes, has issues, isn't very good, has a head coach in Dirk Koetter who's probably going to be fired at the end of this year. Does not have Jameis Winston this week as he is injured. Is going to miss several weeks, in fact, with that shoulder injury. Does not have Mike Evans, who has been suspended for 1 game. So yes, they're missing some pieces. But it's a Buccaneer team that still has some talent. A Buccaneer team that still had some high expectations this year. And they are going into this game expected to go out there and beat a team like the Jets. And oh, by the way, Did I mention, I think I failed to mention, that the quarterback situation is going to be very intriguing in this game, because not only do you have Josh McCown, who was once a member of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now a member of the New York Jets. He's looking for some revenge. But, on the other sideline, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yes, Ryan Fitzpatrick, the same guy who had a brilliant year in 2015 for the Jets, was not so brilliant last year with the Jets. Now with the Buccaneers, he actually shaved the beard, folks. He's going to be clean-shaven for this game. He's going to look a little different. Ryan Fitzpatrick will be under center for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You don't think that Ryan Fitzpatrick would love nothing better than to stick it to the Jets this week? I bet you he would. And while it is Ryan Fitzpatrick, it is Josh McCown, it is two quarterbacks that you really wouldn't rely at all on. You certainly wouldn't hedge your bets with either one of these two quarterbacks. I expect Ryan Fitzpatrick to play well this week. And for a Buccaneer team that has not run the football, they have got to find a way to establish the run against this Jet team, against a Jet defense that has done a good job against the run. They have harassed the quarterback. There's a lot of things here this week that you would figure the Jets should do well. They should do well against this Buccaneer team. They should go out there and win this game. They're certainly they are the better team going into this game. And McCown has done a nice job protecting the football. He has completed 70% of his passes. He has done a nice job leading this offense. He has stabilized things very nicely for this football team moving forward. And we've seen guys like Robbie Anderson have a breakout year this year. Austin Seferian-Jenkins has had a breakout year this year for the Jets at tight end. Jermaine Kearse has been a nice stabilizing force at wide receiver for the Jets this year. But I worry about this game. I really do. Because this, like I said, feels like a trap game for the Jets. They have some expectations now. They know that they're a win away from being at 500. At 5-5, with 6 weeks to go, they still got the playoffs within sight. They could be a playoff team this year. And I hope they do win this game. But I just have a fear. Maybe it's because I'm a Jets fan and you're used to these kind of things of a team going out there and spitting the bit when they're expected to win. I just got a feeling that Ryan Fitzpatrick's got something up his sleeve for the Buccaneers. And the Buccaneers are going to go out there and stun the Jets this week. Last second play, whether it be a touchdown at the end of the game, whether it be another bad penalty on Buster Screen that leads to a field goal, something wacky is going to happen in this game that's just going to drive Jet fans bananas. And it's going to turn the expectations into more dour faces and people wanting Todd Bowles fired. That's just the way Jet fans roll. But I will take the Bucs this week in an upset, slight upset, 20-17 over the New York Jets. Folks, those are my picks this week. Remember to follow us on the social media and like and subscribe here on the Sports Talk Nation here on YouTube. We got some good shows coming up for you in the next week. We got the big Eagles-Cowboys game coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to get some people on to talk about that matchup and also all the drama that's surrounding the Cowboys right now. So we'll do that in the next week here on the Open Mic program. And like I said, follow us on the social media, Facebook.com/Open Mic program, and on Twitter @OpenMicNJ. And remember, hit that like and subscribe button, folks. Talk to you next time right here on the Open Mic program.